what do you think was the pivotal point here that attracted builders to look at Bitcoin and be like, hey, what have I built there?
Yeah. Well, I think builder culture in Bitcoin is somehow always there, but it's like the minority small corner. Bitcoin has the major culture come from the miner community first, right? In the beginning, it's proof of work. So the people who own the most Bitcoin are the miners, right? Like they contributing the security budget to the network, make sure it's decentralized. And it's needed, right? Proof of work is consensus, right? A lot of people believe in Bitcoin. They believe this decentralized network. The more hash power the network has, the more difficult to get hacked, right?
Why do we have to build on Bitcoin?
Obviously, there's a lot of people still kind of think they don't need to do anything with Bitcoin. So it's a philosophical debate. Bitcoin is a digital gold, it's ultra sound money, but there's no use case around Bitcoin.
We're in Dubai with Crypto Newsy and in collaboration with Global Blockchain Show taking place here in Dubai in December. Today, I'm with Charlie from Bitlayer. So tell us about Bitlayer.
Sure. Bitlayer is one of the first Bitcoin L2 focused on BVM. We started last November. We try to build this trust minimized programmable environment for Bitcoin holders and the DeFi protocols to build on top of us. So far, we launched our V1 mainnet in April. So far, we have around 260 projects, 700 million TVL, and almost 250,000 transactions per day now. So quite a lot of interesting use cases are happening on Bitlayer. Essentially, Bitcoin as assets in the last 15 years, we all know it verified as the digital gold, the global payment ways. Obviously, we need scaling solutions. So Lightning served that for the payment. But if we in order to find native yield on Bitcoin, looking for DeFi applications. So this is something Bitlayer trying to build, as a liquidity and a use case hub for all the Bitcoin DeFi.
And you started a year ago, right?
Yeah, last November.
And how did you get this idea?
The idea came from the mission, also kind of the drive to bring utility back on Bitcoin. Ordinals was interesting, had a great, interesting journey from the very first week in Ordinals. So the beginning of last year, people kind of started inscribing, 5K, sub 5K, 10K, all the inscriptions, basically putting data on Bitcoin, right? And then no matter it's NFTs or all kinds of things, I use that kind of learn, it's interesting because they never had happened before. So Ordinals protocol really enabled that. So all kinds of new assets being minted on Bitcoin, right? Including BRC20, NFTs, and later on rare sets, bitmap. So I kind of go along with the journey and with kind of the whole community vibe. People were talking about the whole Bitcoin renaissance. For me, all the assets on chain is created, but we need Bitcoin DeFi. And you can't really do that in Bitcoin L1 because Bitcoin has no smart contract. It's not programmable. It's UTXO cash system. So the idea, the pivotal point was last year during Token 2049 in the Ordinal Summit. I was a speaker. I met Domo and Casey. Domo is BRC20 creator. Casey is Ordinal's protocol creator. They were debating about all the garbage UTXO on Bitcoin. It gets me inspired of, we need to scale Bitcoin because all the community are here and looking for kind of new use cases. So that's kind of the demand, the pivotal moment for us. The solution about BitVM, why I want to build a native L2 started from last October. When we see this interesting solution that we don't need to depend on Bitcoin soft fork. We don't need a new BIP. We can use the existing Bitcoin scripting language to build this verification module. That's pretty exciting. That's why we start this idea. We start this as a real project, start from research team, and then we jump on this full time when during the time Ordinals was kind of really have a crazy rally, a lot of BRC20 assets pumped a lot. So yeah, that was kind of how we started.
I guess the contrarian take on this would be one that this could be some sort of trend. This the Bitcoin renaissance.
Yeah.
And then why do we have to build on Bitcoin? I guess this is the main. How do you answer these questions?
Obviously, there's a lot of people still kind of think they don't need to do anything with Bitcoin. So it's a philosophical debate. Certain things didn't exist, so people think by default it shouldn't exist. But we would argue because there was no solution, there was no on the supply side, we didn't really unlock that possibilities. So we kind of just think for default, Bitcoin is a digital gold, it's ultra sound money, but there's no use case around Bitcoin. The only thing you do is mine out Bitcoin, putting a cold wallet. you kind of use payment, right? But obviously, we could argue stablecoin are here to stay. There's a lot of interesting stablecoin doing a lot of the global settlements. USDC is doing great stuff with with Solana, right? Like there's many other ways to look at that. But I think the ordinals really give interesting momentum of bring the builder culture back. There was a lot of community members who were actively looking for all kinds of ways. They hold the assets, how to looking for the next things, right? I think it's in human nature in modern finance. When you hold assets, you are looking for yield, right? And obviously, this cycle, early 2024, right, we had the Bitcoin ETF approved. So a lot of new folks and new institutional money came in, right? Altogether, now we have like accumulated over 20 billion Bitcoin purchasing power, right? Come from all the institutions like BlackRock, Fidelity, Franklin Templeton. Franklin Templeton is our leading investor. So there's a lot of new investor entering the Bitcoin space with a new vehicle, right? Which is called ETF. They all need looking for yield. This is kind of just a very nature demand. When you hold assets, you want to yield. So DeFi, when we talk at the other side, right? We have DeFi. A lot of DeFi cases in the last 7 years in Ethereum world have one way or the other found that product market fit, right? We have DEXs, we have lending, we have perp DEX, we have option trading, we have all these new things called like real world assets and so on, right? So a lot of builders are already there. So the supply is there. It's not like we're talking about a sci-fi conceptual thing. It's like battle testing Ethereum, but Bitcoin, because of there's no like programmability, but they're sitting on such a big asset class, right? 1.5 trillion. And a lot of people are holders and investors. They have the demand of looking for yield. We're looking for DeFi use cases. So I think that's kind of the interesting asymmetric opportunity for us. Like there's a supply side from the Ethereum, and Ethereum has all kinds of problems, right? I think that's another conversation, maybe another time. A lot of Ethereum users and builders we talked with, they are interested in Bitcoin because everybody knows Bitcoin. They didn't realize there's potential programmability they can build on top of Bitcoin, right? And then Bitcoin assets as a liquidity is interesting for them. On the demand side, right, the asset allocators, the asset management firms, no matter it's institutions or retail, if there's a way they can tap into new yield opportunities with different risks, they're interested. In the beginning, they kind of wants to learn, and more we're talking also onboarding all those Bitcoin DeFi use cases on what chain. More and more users now start kind of exploring. Like they might tip the toe, maybe just spend 0 point something Bitcoin, like small amount to try. But then they get to learn how to use all these Web3 wallets, how to use this liquidity, how to enter this liquidity pool, how to bridge and all that. Eventually, it's just numbers. So I think we are in the very beginning of the potential Bitcoin DeFi summer. It's very early, but it's upcoming. Yeah.
So I guess the narrative would be that if you build something on top of Bitcoin, maybe the price will go up and the whole ecosystem prevails.
It's not 100% just like that, but obviously it's sort of. Bitcoin price going up is always helpful for on-chain transactions. When Bitcoins go sideways, Bitcoin on-chain transaction went down quite a lot. That happened in late Q2, early Q3 this year, right? Bitcoin was kind of in the sideways. The on-chain transaction went down quite a lot. Actually very significant. Obviously now we are in this upper rally with all these like election or Q4 momentum. The other thing I think is very needed for Bitcoin layers, not just L2, maybe Meta protocol should exist, is we are having this like 4-year cycle, right? Now this is another half a year. So miners are having hard time to make them profitable, right? Like the hash rate is very, very high right now. You need to cover a lot of cost for electricity to make sure you are still profitable, right? If Bitcoin price go down to a certain level, you actually need to shut down your miners, right? Otherwise, you're burning money. So who is gonna still keep incentivized, right? Like miners to stay incentivized to contribute the hash power to make sure this network is secure is the ultimate long-term challenges for Bitcoin network, right? So the existing rewards for all the miners is basically every 10 to 20 minutes you mine out the Bitcoin, right? If you win the block, you get the rewards. If not, you're not receiving anything. Obviously, every 4 years we're getting half and half, right? Like less and less on the Bitcoin units of rewards. Bitcoin ecosystem, to make it very sustainable, we need on-chain transactions, right? A lot of miners had an interesting journey, right? They made a lot of money because of all those transactions. They made additional rewards on that. So we believe the future of Bitcoin ecosystem should be a lot of uses around Bitcoin, not necessarily on Bitcoin L1 natively. Maybe some of the use cases, but Majority will be with all the expressive smart contract Bitcoin layers, but we contributing the security budget, meaning we do the layer 1 verification. So transaction happening on our chain, on our layer 2, but it will be verified with the ZK proof, right, on Bitcoin. That's the key part. And but obviously, the ZK proof on Bitcoin needs to pay the fees. So if it's just a sidechain, we essentially competing with Bitcoin L1 because transaction, the liquidity bridge over to the sidechains, all the transaction fees just stay in the sidechain validator. There's no contributing back to Bitcoin L1, right? So there's a 2 data point, it's interesting to share. So Q2 this year, Bitcoin L1 had around 80 Bitcoin on gas fees altogether. Q3 was only 10 Bitcoin. So Bitmain, a bunch of all these big miners, they realized, obviously Bitcoin price goes sideways. It was not helpful, way less on transactions. And also because all these Bitcoin sidechains, a lot of users bridge over their Bitcoin to the sidechains and have all the transactions happening on sidechains. So they're basically stealing the business from the layer 1 to L2, which is not a real L2, it's called a sidechains. So in order to build a native L2 and contributing the security budget back to Bitcoin L1 and bring all the use cases around Bitcoin and then letting the miners still have incentivized reward is the way for the better future of Bitcoin ecosystem.
How does it compare, if you know the answer, how does it compare building on Bitcoin compared to like building on Ethereum or Solana or so on?
It's a good question. So on the L2s, most of the L2s existing ones, sidechains right now, including us, are EVM compatible. So for any EVM builders let's say you have a DeFi protocol, whenever it's liquid staking or DEXs, you build on Arbitrum Optimism or Polygon or any other L2, right? It's a seamless integration to come over to Bitlayer because we are 100% EVM compatible. Yeah. But the difference is a few factors. One, we use Bitcoin, wrap the Bitcoin as gas fee, not Ethereum. Two, majority of liquidity actually wrap the Bitcoin, right? Not Ethereum is not the liquidity units. It's mostly Bitcoin and of course stable coins. Three, it's very the Bitcoin culture kind of sentiment. They care about Bitcoin. They care about all the risk assumptions and so on. So the V2 is the key momentum we're launching very soon next month, is to make it native L2, because a lot of the people who have the Bitcoin, they want to bridge over to L2 for all kinds of use cases. Some of them actually are miners as well. So they have this Bitcoin security, Bitcoin first principle kind of demand. But for builders, it really comes down to whoever deliver the best UX, solid, secure product for users to use, right? So a lot of folks actually, those kind of builders are actually in Ethereum or Solana, right? But the reason why they want to come over to Bitlayer or the other Bitcoin L2s is they need Bitcoin liquidity. They're interested to tap into that. They want to tap into Bitcoin holders user base, which is new for them compared to the existing ones they have. Three is just they're bullish on Bitcoin as assets, and then in the future for a future of ecosystem. It didn't happen, so it's a lot of alpha. It's kind of early stage for a lot of folks, kind of having hard time to win their position in Ethereum L2 or Solana. This might be their new shot.
Historically, Bitcoin has been more of a, like, if you consider like the archetype of the Bitcoiner, has been more of a, like this OG in crypto that used Bitcoin very early on, or like someone that is more of an investor rather than a builder, which is the point I'm trying to make here. What do you think happened? Because like Ethereum has been built from the beginning.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think was the pivotal point here that attracted builders to look at Bitcoin and be like, hey, like, what if I build there?
Yeah. Well, I think builder culture in Bitcoin is somehow always there, but it's like the minority small corner. A lot of the miners. So Bitcoin has the major culture come from the miner community first, right? In the beginning, it's proof of work. So the people who own the most Bitcoin are the miners, right? Like they contributing the security budget to the network, make sure it's decentralized, and it's needed, right? Proof of work is the consensus, right? A lot of people believe in Bitcoin. They believe this decentralized network. The higher the hash power, the more hash power the network has, the more difficult to get hacked, right? So that's that. A lot of miners are not necessarily builders in terms of smart contract builder, NFT builder, like all the new software products we are seeing in the Ethereum world. A lot of them actually are very sophisticated miners in terms of they maintain the hardware, they can run the nodes, they trying to find cheap electricity fees. So it's a completely different skill set and a mindset. Some builders try to build things, including Vitalik, the founder of Ethereum, right? He was a writer of Bitcoin magazine early days, and he struggled to bring use cases, on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin as an architect was not designed to be like that, right? It was UTXO. It's kind of a bit clunky. It's slow, right? Like every single block is 10 to 20 minutes. And of course, the miners, a lot of them actually don't care, right? They don't look at the use case mindset. And obviously, people wants to build use cases on top of it. A lot of software engineers, including Vitalik, right? They had that. So that was kind of struggle. You can't build that in Bitcoin in the early days. That's the reason Vitalik started a monolithical specific layer one called, which is like tooling complete smart contract chain called Ethereum. Yeah, and I was a early Ethereum contributor all the way from 2015 as well. So I know that kind of the whole Ethereum journey. But I would say interesting OG kind of Bitcoin aligned chain like Stacks and a few others like Rootstock kind of always try to promote that. All the way from even before Stacks was color coin. They are trying to put things on Bitcoin, like to play around with it, right? And I would say we all kind of agree socially they didn't have enough traction, so we wouldn't consider these successful, right? Ethereum kind of became the major successful smart contract chain after ICO and definitely after DeFi summer in 2020, right? But I think the people who seeking use case around Bitcoin is always there. Ordinals really move the needle, right? I think that's kind of the repeated people kind of saying that Ordinals opened up this Pandora box, right? You can natively mint assets on Bitcoin, no matter it's NFTs, no matter it's like fungible tokens. And the timing was interesting. The BIP 430 got approved in late 2021 in a very small Bitcoin community. A lot of people don't realize it got approved that early. And they had 1 year of kind of not doing anything with this BIP. And then Casey, right, he had an interesting idea and he always trying to bring the use case on Bitcoin, right? It was cool. And he had this idea of putting JSON data on Bitcoin, on sats, right? It was kind of a weird idea for some engineers, but it's kind of worked. It's very simple and it's straightforward. So you pay the fees, you inscribe kind of things on Bitcoin network, right? And then it's immutable. It's tamper-proof. Obviously, it's expensive. If you want to inscribe, like let's say a 500 kilobytes of JPEG picture on top of Bitcoin, you have to pay a lot of Bitcoin, right? So there was certain people kind of doing that, but I think I was a diehard guys, right? Who wants to putting something in history? Because whether you inscribed last year, like it's all in the history. It's all in the Bitcoin block. Nobody can change that, right? It's all forever in the Bitcoin chain. So that was cool. But I think, because of those people kind of doing that for fun, for social experiment, they're doing the bear market. Don't forget, like 2023 was a bear market. A lot of things we think was like, now it's really going up. At that time, it was very like a dark, gloomy area. Like nothing really worked. So people kind of felt, okay, this is something new and it's on Bitcoin. So let's try that out. But I think that was kind of just a small gradual evolution of more and more builders gaining more and more mindshare. Oh, there's interesting things we potentially can build on Bitcoin. And then eventually become a community.
All right. And what is something exciting coming out for Bitlayer?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So Bitlayer really trying to open up the whole scope. It's not just the nerds on Bitcoin ecosystem, which is a very small community. And it's not just the Web3 native degen or small echo chamber, right? Obviously, we are talking to a lot of the builders who have been in the space for many years, a lot of OGs, and also liquidity providers like miners who have been in the space over 10 years. But the goal of Bitlayer is trying to be this trustless programmable environment for all the new Bitcoin holders, even the institution like ETF firms, to tap into Bitcoin staking, Bitcoin yield, Bitcoin DeFi opportunities, right? So that's kind of the whole mission. Obviously, we want to make it layer one verification. This is the key infrastructure module we're working on, right? This layer one verification will allow us to have the same level of Bitcoin security, not just a sidechain. And we contributing the security budget back to Bitcoin, right? Paying the fees back and so on. In order to do that, there's a lot of engineering challenges we're working on. So next upcoming months, we want to launch our V2 mainnet, which is trust minimized and Bitcoin verification enabled a real layer 2. And of course, we are now working on a few very important partnership. 2 days ago, we just got announced on the news with Chainlink on the CCIP, doing the smart contract count in Hong Kong. which will allow us to access to a lot of real world assets, all kinds of institutional DeFi kind of use cases, make it a or like cross chain easily to all the other different L1 and L2s. And now, of course, this integration with Circle is very strategic. We try to be the first Bitcoin L2 working on the native USDC minting. So we will have bigger and more native USDC stablecoin pools. That's a huge signal for institutional firms to come over, provide liquidity to use our DeFi protocols and so on. Franklin Templeton is our lead investor. They are working with us on the global Benji. That's a new money market asset management protocol platform they're going to launch. They already have the existing on-chain version, the onshore version in the United States, which is only open for United States, US investors. The global version will be open for global investors. So it's pretty exciting for us to tap into. Obviously, there's many other very exciting DeFi protocols like Curve and a bunch of like liquid staking protocols going to deploy on Bitlayer. They're coming very soon. So we want to provide all kinds of use cases, right, on that. So adding very strategic USDC as a stable coins, adding more use cases, partnering with the Franklin Templeton's kind of major ETF firms. These are the kind of the key things we want to open up the space. Not just focusing on the small echo chamber of Bitcoin nerds or the OGs, which is very important. Don't get me wrong, they are very important, but that's only that small. I would argue it's like less than 20,000 people globally, like a very small community, right? It's an important community. We are trying our best, providing contribution, doing public goods, also solid technology to this community. But the bigger market is the institutions, the whole new Bitcoin holders, right? Who kind of treat Bitcoin as an important alternative assets, not 100% just digital gold. So people want to yield, people are looking for use cases. Yeah, and a lot of retail, like they had a lot of fun doing things on our chain, like no matter it's a prediction market, a few meme coin on our chain as well. So we try to also expand and explore what kind of consumer applications can be built on Bitcoin.
For everyone watching, where can they find you?
The easiest way to find me is my Twitter, Charlie Hu Sets, and you can follow our official Twitter, Bitlayer Labs as well. We share all the alpha and news over there.
Charlie, thank you.
Thank you, Mia.